What if the moon disappeared from the Earth? Of course, it would be dark at night, but that's not all. Our planet is strongly connected to its only satellite in many ways we don't even notice, from the ocean tides to the climate. A world without the moon would be completely different. Would humanity survive such changes? Let's find out. Number 10. Tsunami. In the absence of the moon, the level of the oceans will change, causing giant tsunami waves. Currently, the gravitational force of the moon raises the water level by about 20 centimeters. This means that with the disappearance of the moon, the volume of the world ocean would decrease by 20%. As a result, the water would retreat from the coastal areas. And if we take into account that the world ocean contains 97% of all water on the planet, this is a huge amount. The World Water Assessment Program estimates that more than half of the world's population lives within 100 kilometers of the ocean. In other words, almost all of us would suffer from these changes. And the tsunami could destroy entire cities. No 9 seasons. Without the moon, our planet would experience unpredictable seasons. The moon affects the tilt of the Earth's axis by 3 degrees. This keeps our planet's tilt relatively stable and helps keep the seasons from changing too dramatically. Without the moon, the tilt of the Earth's axis would be less pronounced. As a result, the duration of the year would change. The planet would lean towards the sun more often. One day it would start spinning around its axis, so fast that the centrifugal force would make it flatten at the poles and bulge at the equator. It seems that people would hardly survive such changes. However, scientists have calculated that the moon doesn't affect the temperature very much. So maybe the weather wouldn't change so dramatically after all. 8 storms. Strong winds often occur near the coast, especially during storms. This happens because the moon and the sun create tides in the ocean. When the tidal wave approaches the shore, it pushes the air in the coastal area above it. The air gets compressed and forms a powerful wind that can reach speeds of up to 160 kilometers per hour. But not only the wind speed would change. Without the moon, there would be fewer storms and precipitation in general. That's because water from the ocean would evaporate more slowly. And since clouds form from water vapor, their quantity would also decrease. Thus, humanity would face droughts, and agriculture would become impossible. No 7 navigation. The moon is used for navigation in space and on Earth. For example, astronauts use it to determine the coordinates of their spacecraft when flying through it. But what if the Earth suddenly lost its satellite? First, it would become more difficult for ships to navigate at sea. Celestial navigation has been used for centuries. Sailors determine their location by the stars, planets, and of course the moon. With the disappearance of the moon, navigation would become much more complicated. It's likely that sometime it would be possible to create new methods of determining coordinates without a moon, but would we manage to do this in time? After all, the moon also affects the functioning of many mechanisms. Number 6. Global warming. The moon plays an important role in maintaining a comfortable climate on Earth. Its gravity affects the rotation speed of our planet. This causes the air currents in the atmosphere to move, which in turn distributes heat from the equator to the poles. Without a moon, the climate on Earth would change drastically. The average temperature at the poles would drop so much that it would become impossible to live there. At the same time, it would get much hotter near the equator. The thing is that the sun's rays hit this area more directly, so they heat it more than the rest of the planet. There are already too many problems associated with global warming. If the climate changes again, humanity will be doomed. No. 5 animals. Many animals use the moon for orientation. For example, nocturnal insects fly out to feed at night, choosing the light of the moon to move around. In its absence, insects would be in for a big surprise. They would simply have nothing to navigate at night. Also, nocturnal animals that hunt insects would have to change their hunting methods or go hungry. And it's not just the animals that would suffer. Birds living in polar regions would lose their way home. After all, they also use the moon for orientation. In addition, without the gravitational force of the moon, the Earth would begin to rotate faster. As a result, animals would have to endure earthquakes and hurricanes. Some species would die off, while others would learn to survive in new conditions. Number 4. Plants. Plants would also suffer from the disappearance of the moon. It's no secret that they grow better in its light. Even if the moon goes away for just a couple of weeks, farmers immediately notice that the growth of agricultural crops slows down. Scientists believe that plants sense the brightness of moonlight and use this information to determine the time of flowering. But not only the flowering time would change, but also the number of fruits. For example, tomatoes would bear less fruit. That's because the moon affects not only the growth of plants, but also the amount of pollination. 3. Light. Without the moon, the earth would plunge into darkness at night. Not only would it become darker, but the nights would be noticeably colder. The moon reflects the sun's rays and illuminates our planet. On average, it gives as much light as a 250-watt incandescent lamp. But that's not all. The moon is an excellent reflector. During the full moon, the sun's rays illuminate 70% of its surface. When the moon is half, it's only 50%, and when it's waning, 30%. Scientists have calculated that in the absence of the moon, people would have to use artificial lighting most of the time. In other words, we'd have to spend much more electricity. But where would we get that much electricity? Perhaps we'd have to look for other sources of energy. 2. Time. In the absence of the moon, people would have to rethink the calendar and forget about the phrase "once upon a time." Currently, the lunar cycle is 27 days long. This is how long it takes for the moon to orbit the Earth. Ancient civilizations used the moon to determine the time. For them, a day was the time between two full moons. The duration of pregnancy was also determined by the lunar cycle. According to statistics, childbirth occurs every 266 days. This is equal to exactly 9 lunar cycles. Also, many holidays are associated with the phases of the moon, for example, Easter. In the absence of a moon, people would have to choose another basis for counting. 1. Love. The moon affects not only the climate and plants, but also people. For example, lovers often meet at night under the moonlight. How would they feel without it? There are many holidays dedicated to love. Valentine's Day, for example. People give each other rings with precious stones under the moonlight. How would such rituals change without a moon? And what if lovers decided to get married during a full moon? Without a moon, they'd have to postpone the wedding. But the most interesting fact is that the light of the moon affects the fertility of women. Every 5 years, there's a leap month, when the menstrual cycle shifts by about a week. This happens because the moon goes through all phases once in 27 days. A similar cycle lasts about 29.5 days. Well, these periods differ by a couple of days, and these days are crucial for conception. It seems that humanity is too dependent on the moon to exist without it. Do you think we're ready to live without a moon? Leave a comment about it. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. And that's all for today. See you soon. Bye.